Welcome to another episode of RGB Talk. I'm William Mawazi.
I'm Tony Reyes.
And today we're going to discuss the Netflix series Luke Cage.
Yes, Luke Cage. Shall we?
Yep.
Magnificent. All right. So let's start off. Let's start with a general overview. Like, how did you feel about the whole series overall?
We can start it out with the comparison of the earlier Netflix series, like season 1 and 2 of Daredevil,
Okay.
Jessica Jones, and which each series, it seems like these shows have been getting better and better and better.
That's true.
And so, like with Luke Cage, that was just like the crescendo for me, because I mean, it just carried it over the top. Not just because of my background as being Black American,
Mm-hmm.
or our background,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that I do appreciate the cultural nuances in it, and the fact that they tried to give, or they did give Luke Cage or Carl Lucas, thinking about the runner, so some dignity,
Mm-hmm.
where like in the earlier the book version, he was a little bit more problematic.
Here we have the original origin story of Luke Cage, where he started out from being a thug, then later turning his life around.
So I think they did a good job cleaning that up.
Well, in my case, I really didn't know too much of the storyline of Luke Cage. You know, he existed, never read his comics, and maybe because his initial outfit really turned me off. Right? So I was born in the 70s.
You don't like the tiara?
No, the tiara, the super fly collar shirt, the chain for a belt wasn't really my
Here
dig.
you have the debut issue of Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, or Power Man, his other name that he went by for a short term. In the film version, where they did a wink at the original costume before giving it up. Here's his modern look.
But initially, to be honest, before, like, what was it, about a year or two ago, when we were first discussing the idea of there being a Luke Cage show, I didn't think it would be any good. I had no idea how they would bring it together. Oh, how am I wrong? I'm wrong. I mean, it's definitely based off all the other shows that are based, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, even I'll throw in there Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
This is the best superhero show out on TV. I've never seen anything this good. This was amazing. I mean, from the music, we'll cover stuff from the culture.
And here's one example of the different genres of music they featured in Luke Cage, from funk, neo-soul, and hip-hop.
It did everything right. This show was magnificent. And Luke Cage, how they wrote the character in this case for this show was just well written, well acted. It's 110, percent of how I thought the effort put into the show was fantastic. It was number one.
Yeah, they planned it out really well.
Extremely well.
So, I'm kind of excited to see what happens next. But before we get into how the series ended, the first season.
Yeah. Spoilers. Remember that.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
You should have seen it by now.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about some, I guess, the characters that you like within the series.
So here you have where, in the original concept for Luke Cage, Pop was a composite of Carl Lucas, where he was the bad boy who turned his life around as he went in and out of the system. So they used Pop as that stand-in character for the original origin story for Luke Cage, Carl Lucas. And I like what they did with that, because it gave him a good origin foundation, where you see a tale of redemption through this character instead of Luke Cage, where they made him like he was a former law enforcement officer. So here you have Shades, Reckham, and I guess this character would be Comanche from the comic books. And this is Dr. Bernstein and how he doing the experiment with Cage that granted him his powers. But I kind of like what they did with the Bernstein character in the film version opposed to the book, where he's a little bit more devious, where, you know, they know they're experimenting on these prisoners and it's not ethical. So I like that turn with that character. I like to see what they do with that. And Luke Cage after he gets his powers. And I like the Asian representation in Luke Cage too. They got a lot of positive feedback from that in the community.
I did like the actor, Cottonmouth. I know I've seen that actor in something else. I can't remember other shows, but I've seen him a lot. And so I enjoyed him as an actor. And what I love about these shows on Netflix is the development of the storyline for the characters. So it's the way they develop out the storyline of why he was a criminal, in this case,
Mahershala Ali.
Why he pursued, his, I guess, criminal field, such vigor. Talking about his background, how he could have been a pianist.
Yeah,
right?
Something more, that focus on his talents or his ambition.
Exactly.
Where like his family influence, the nature versus nurture type thing kicks in, and where like he's pulled into this this underworld culture, and so he's just trying to do his best to live up to that legacy.
Exactly. So he's not just one-dimensional. When we really think about it in terms of black characters who are villains in films, they're often one-dimensional.
Right.
But you've seen, like in this day and age, a lot of these TV shows specifically, more than movies I would say, are giving them more nuance, more size, developing out more. I mean, this as a side note, the show Power, right? Different show. But again, the lead character is a criminal. He's black, but he does have various sides to him. So they're making him more complex rather than just the bad or the evil black man in the film. So I think I really enjoyed his character.
Luke.
Amazing, the character. I mean, the nuance of him. I mean, he wasn't his reluctance, how the actor played towards, how he expressed that within the show, and just the way they slowly but surely develop out his resistance of becoming a superhero. And he finally became a hero. Or that when he interacted with certain people like Method Man. Right? Or just, cool. He has some humor too.
Right.
A little bit to him. So I just think that they really chose a great actor for his character, and he was well played. Well played. What about yourself?
No one was totally good, but no one's totally bad. Even when they talked about the Scarf character, like his background with him losing his son, his personal struggles, and and the fact that he took Misty under his wing. And so it's just like, even though he had these struggles and he had this good side where he mentored Misty, but he also did bad things that hurt the community.
Yeah, he was dirty.
Yeah. So you can see like what her partner has done. So I like the way they wrote the storylines about the people in the police department as well. I mean, the series, they didn't paint anybody with a broad stroke.
That's true. That's true.
So it's different shades of each, I guess, like situation. So I really appreciated that. And with the cultural development of the show, the way the characters spoke, it was very naturalistic.
Yes.
And even with how they dealt with the use of the N-word, and like Luke's stance on that. And but it's those things where it's just like you know, you're not trying to beat people over the head with this sense of morality about what's, you know, proper and what's not proper. It's just the fact that that's just how it is. And you just present it and you deal with it, you know, as you see fit.
You know, I have to agree on that. I thought that talking about the language, so let's get into more now the culture of the show. I can't really think of any film, maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to think of a film or a movie or something where the language was so steep with so many cultural cues. You know, I haven't seen anything like that. What I mean by that is that if you watch this show and if you're born between, I don't know, I want to say from the 60s up until like maybe the early 80s, or if you were young, you were around for the 80s and the early 90s, then I think you appreciate the show on a whole nother level to say teenagers of today. You'll get different things from it because they reference things that are from way back in the day.
Yeah, it's a lot of references. I mean, like literature.
Here you have some examples of the books featured on Luke Cage: Walter Mosley, Ralph Ellison, among a few others. Had it suggested reading Acres of Skin, talking about the experimentations in a prison system along with other cultural books.
You know what? Yes. I mean, that's, I hate to cut you off, but that was awesome. And they really spoke well, and they brought in a lot about, you know, Black history, American history, really. You know, important Black figures that no one talks about. Right? It had a lot of that. The books they were mentioning throughout the show. I'm looking up books. I'm like, oh, I gotta get this book. I have to get that book. I mean, it was educational. Heavily educational with everyone they would mention in terms of, you know, famous or Black Americans of note. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the first thing that got my attention too. Like, you know, when they talk about like Walter Mosley and the characters from, you know, these, you know, books and stuff like that. And I mean, I like the way that was done because, I mean, whether it's music, like, you know, certain movies and TV shows like Empire, like, you know, you can download the soundtracks to these shows, which I did. Yeah, and,
that's pretty good. Yeah, okay.
And so, like, it's you know, it's, I guess the lack of a better word, it's just advertising of other aspects of the culture.
Exactly.
You know, literature, art, and music. You know, the painting in the office. And
Harlem Renaissance was heavily spoke of in this show, actually. And I swear I saw somebody with Invisible Man, the book. That was in there. Yeah, it was in the background. And I'm like, oh, I see that.
That was on the coffee tape.
Yeah. It's like it had a lot of little...
Ralph Ellison.
Yeah, they would kind of just drop through the whole show. You know, and for me, I enjoyed the movie The Warriors. It's one of my favorite films. It was made in 1979.
Well, I mean, that is definitely a wink to that, like when the Diamondback character was revealed.
Yes.
And, you know, let's talk about Diamondback. You know,
let's talk about the villains. Okay.
That character, and you know how he was developed. So, in the book, you know, they were just like homeboys, but like, you know, childhood friends. And so in the TV show, they made it more like, you know, they were half brothers. And so, you know, the dad was kind of like this, like, you know, promiscuous preacher. It's kind of reminiscent to a Paul Robeson film.
And this is the movie that I was referencing, Body and Soul, by director Oscar Micheaux, featuring Paul Robeson as the preacher.
Where he played a character like that too. Look it up. But so, and it's kind of ingrained where, like, in the Black American culture, you know, church society and the whole thing with preachers and stuff, and it gets kind of, I mean, you know, they throw it in there, but if you know more about it, then you pick up on it. But So with the Diamondback character, they did change his background a little bit, but I like the fact that the character was pretty. I mean, like his outfit was a wink to the comic book suit. Because I know you had some reservations about that when you first saw it.
Yeah.
But when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, I appreciated that. I mean, the color scheme, the little yellow thing that they had here of like, you know, it looked like the underbelly of the snake. And I was just like, the only thing that was different is the helmet, but it makes sense. Because
well, they had to make some sense of it, yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, to protect himself.
So here you have Willis Stryker, a.k.a. Diamondback, in his snake themed outfit. Here is the TV version of it with the hammer tech to give him that extra power to fight with his nemesis Luke Cage.
Rosario Dawson's character.
Night Nurse?
Yeah. She's been pretty consistent through the whole series. And I also read she's going, I guess, like dip into the Iron Fist series.
Yeah, she would have to, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how the adventures we vicariously learn about these characters through her, basically.
That's true.
So, you know, that's I think she's an interesting character that links all the series together. But another fascinating character, a strong character in the Marvel Comics universe would be Misty Knight. Even with her character, there's been a lot of what I see through the show. You see her character grow, but it was one part like in the show where, you know, because in the comic book she loses her arm.
Yes, and she has like a bionic arm. Yeah,
you know, a gift from Tony Stark.
Anyone familiar with the character in the books, you know she loses her arm. So when she got hurt on the show, you almost thought this is how she lost it.
Yeah. I love the use of like the hammer tech from the Iron Man movies.
Yes.
So that's a definitely nod. You know, I just like that integration of the different universes. You know, the cinematic and the TV shows.
Yeah.
So even like Diamondback, you know, his suit is even powered. So it's kind of like, you know, Justin Hammer, you know, his, you know, R&D department have been working on their own type of super soldier, or even though it's not a metal suit, but like, you know, their own, you know, Iron Man or power suit for like, you know, military purposes.
Yeah.
You know, that's how they get their money. So like the fact that Diamondback suit is hammer tech also is kind of, I thought it was interesting. But I like the fact that the hammer tech, the bullets that they used against Cage, they actually worked this time.
This show, again, did something I've never seen before, of how many women of color.
Here you have the various women of color that were featured on Luke Cage, including the Reva character. And she was the love interest of Carl Lucas, but in the comic book, Willis Stryker also had affections for her, where in the film version, you don't really know her connection between Stryker and Luke Cage. So he's framed. Willis is trying to escape with Reva. The men after him gun her down, trying to get to him, which Luke Cage vows vengeance.
They use strong women of color, and although they're women of color, they weren't necessarily constrained to their ethnicity. Right. They're strong characters, be it villains. Yeah, their sensuality either. They were strong characters. It could have been, granted, it's written for women, but it could have been men in that particular role, being that how they wrote the storyline. Yeah. So I've never seen, again, this show had to do a lot with race, culture, and gender, and it took it on more than you see with many other shows.
Yeah, I mean, like even though Alfre Woodard's character is more like a TV show adaptation. I like how she's kind of like this resistant force to want to carry on the legacy as her brother.
As her brother, more came from there. What was it? When Mom's
Mabel, played by LaTanya Richardson Jackson.
The main female kingpin that was in the show that died and left her and her. What was her cousin? Wasn't he? Yeah. Her cousin.
He's kind of like adopted.
Yeah. So adopted family. Let's call him that. And left her and Cottonmouth in control. So actually, both her and Cottonmouth were both fighting to be their own people, but they both
had that legacy that
exactly
to uphold, or that tradition.
Exactly.
And Alfre Woodard's character was pushing against that
initially. But was she really? Because she also needed him. So it was like she was still part of that, but she didn't want to be associated. Exactly. So she was living both. And then she had to really jump into it once he was left. Right? And she really took that because she killed him.
Right.
And Shades knew. Right? You know what was inside her and what she really wanted to achieve. He pretty much released that from, allowed her to do that.
The film and comic book version of Shades.
Yeah, but I kind of like the Shades character, where he's kind of like this, I wouldn't say like a puppet master, but somewhat like a cheerleader. It seems like he's just because that family legacy also helped him. As he professed on the show, where it's like even though she did bad things, the matriarch of the family, she also looked out for the people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I don't know, in somewhat ways he's trying to pay respects to the gratitude that her family has given him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's in the catbird seat now, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he's running the show, but he has his queen who's making all the moves.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was kind of smooth.
Yeah, and that actor, actually I like that actor a lot from
Theo Ross.
Yeah, from Sons of Anarchy. And I thought he was underutilized in Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
And to see him come back in another show and have such a prominent role in it, I'm like, great. I mean, I like him as an actor, so it's like fantastic. And the show was it was fantastic.
I like the fact they actually shot it in Harlem, because I knew, they were suggesting to shoot it somewhere else in New York, but to keep it real, especially for somebody who used to live there. When I see the streets, like, oh yeah, I know where that is. The Adam Clayton Powell statue and stuff like that. So I get a kick out of that.
So basically, to sum it all up, if you haven't seen the show, watch the show. I know he's going to watch it again. I'm going to watch it again. I've never rewatched any of these Netflix series like this. So it's a great show, great story, amazing characters, and granted they have Iron Fist coming next.
And so as the series ends, Luke Cage is back in custody, and Claire offers to get a lawyer friend, which is of course Matt Murdock, to help him out. So this will definitely lead into the Defenders, and I can't wait to see it.
I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. Trust me, we're going to review it. But if you haven't seen Luke Cage, you're missing one of the greatest, not just superhero comic TV shows, but one of the best shows, best anything filmed ever. So definitely check it out.
All right.
All right.